Next on MLR Weekly, New England General Manager Tom Kindley wreaking havoc. Premier Rugby 7's CEO Owen Scannell, and our MLR coffee break with Rugby Morning's John Fitzpatrick. Rugby Wrap-Up brought to you in part by Sheehy Auto Stores. It's easy at Sheehy. The Pig and Whistle, the world's best rugby pub. And Lean and Limber, stretching your way to a healthier lifestyle. Hello again, and welcome back to this week's MLR Weekly, as presented by Rugby Wrap-Up. Matt McCarthy in New York City. Thank you for joining us again. We have a great show. We have none other than CEO of Premier Rugby 7's Owen Scannell. Why is he on an MLR Weekly program? Good question. We'll answer it later. We also have Tom Kindley of the very busy New England Free Jacks. He's the general manager. But before we get to either of those folks, we have our MLR recurring segment, Rugby Morning's Coffee Break with John Fitzpatrick. John, take us away.
Big names continue to join Major League Rugby. The Dallas Jackals signed former Argentina head coach Mario Ledesma as assistant coach and consultant. A lot of Argentinian flair in Dallas. Eh, Matt?
Ah, oui, a lot of flair in Dallas. Oh, it's Argentinian. I don't have that accent.
The New England Free Jacks, a trio of signings here. Canadian prop Cole Keith, formerly of the Toronto Arrows, Connor Young, and Kiwi Jason Patros.
You say Patras, I say Potras. Let's call the whole thing off. Next!
But, Matt, the question remains, who will New England sign to replace Waaka?
Ah, that is a question that remains. Another question that remains is, why don't we ever see squirrel poop? We see all kinds of poop, but we never see squirrel poop. Next!
Nola Gold, they traded for fullback Doug Fife. They sent salary cap considerations to the New England Free Jacks in 2023. Fife signed a 2-year deal with New Orleans. Nola Gold, the best offseason so far?
I don't know, but Tom Kindley, the GM of the Free Jacks, is going to have to answer to that later in the show. Next!
Another team putting together a great offseason, Old Glory DC. They re-signed outside center William Talatena, and they signed Argentinian flanker Latoro Bavaro.
A great pickup for Old Glory, and a perfect time for me to shamelessly plug Sheehy Auto Stores. It's easy at Sheehy. Next!
The San Diego Legion traded Ben Mitchell to the Seattle Seawolves in exchange for Sean McNulty. And they signed former Austin Gilgronis lock Isaac Ross.
McNulty is certainly getting around the MLR, but that, if I'm not mistaken, has 2 Malcolms at hooker for Seattle. Is that right?
That's right, Matt. There are 2 hookers running around Seattle with the last name Malcolm.
Next!
The Toronto Arrows, they have signed Captain Lucas Rumble. He'll be back for the Arrows in 2023.
A statistical marvel, considering the fact that his feet go in opposite directions. Next!
Last but not least, the Utah Warriors have re-signed flanker Yuri Van Buren. Vroom, vroom.
No truth to the rumors that he is domestically available for the USA because of his great-great-great-grandfather, Martin. Thank you, John Fitzpatrick, for this week's Rugby Mornings Coffee Break. We'll be right back with Owen Scannell, CEO of Premier Rugby 7s, after this.
Selling or trading in your vehicle? Sheehy makes it easy. With Easy Trade, start online or visit us in store. We want your vehicle, and we'll give you up to 125% of KBB value.
It's easy at Sheehy. Sheehy.com.
If you're in New York City and want to watch some great rugby, have some great food, and some great times, go to the world's best rugby pub, the Pig and Whistle on West 36th Street.
And we are back, ladies and gentlemen, and we're back with Mr. Owen Scannell, the CEO of Premier Rugby 7s, PR7s. Owen, welcome to MLR Weekly.
Thanks, Matt, for having me. It's great to be here.
All right, and Owen, right now, it's people on Reddit are destroying me for having you on MLR Weekly because you're not an MLR entity, but there is a reason, and we'll get to that later. We'll leave them on the edge of their seats. But let's talk about your tournament. Just give us the skinny. Act like somebody's in a cave. They just got out of the cave, and you're filling them in.
PR7s, they're kind of the 3 quick things to know about us. We're one of the first professional standalone 7s competitions in the world, currently with 4 franchises. We're the first men's and women's competition with pay equity, regardless of gender, in a combined championship. And we're also officially sanctioned by USA Rugby as the top tier of professional 7s in the U.S.
Put the line through one of the questions I was going to nail you with.
Yeah, we've been sanctioned actually since the summer of 2020. We've been every competition we've run has been with great help and partnership with USA Rugby, and we have a tremendous relationship with everybody there, and trying to build a very unique and differentiated rugby sevens competition.
If I'm not mistaken, and I'm just let me go through this so I have it down. Men and women play on a same team, and there's prize money to be won. They get their expenses paid. They don't necessarily get a salary or a fee for coming in and participating in the tournament at this point, but they are getting their expenses paid, and they have an opportunity to win prize money.
Yeah, and we essentially the way it's structured and the nomenclature we try and be deliberate with. We have 4 franchises, so there's 4 team brands at the moment that competed in 2022. Each one of those teams has a men's and women's team. Those players, those 2 competitions are separate. The men will compete against the men for in each stop for a trophy there, with points combining and consolidating over the course of the season for an individual men's and women's title, as well as a united championship that combines the men's and women's performances. We think that's something really cool, really exciting, unique in sports, and it's something that I think is hasn't really been seen quite yet. So we've got a lot of very positive feedback on that, and people have really seemed to take to that, especially the players too. I think we've had a number of players. You can see in some of the in some of the highlights in the matches. It creates this kind of cross culture between the men's and women's programs where they're rooting each other on for their combined successes.
But that doesn't mean sharing in the prize if it's won by that team. The pay structures are, we've kind of tweaking and changing them, every, with some of the feedback. We've kept most of the prize money separate at the beginning, but I think we'll probably look at ways next year to kind of consolidate that and make that, as a combined output next year. All right. So you're the Dartmouth guy. I'm the University of Buffalo guy. I'm having a hard time wrapping my head around the pay thing, because I thought it says the first sports league to launch equal pay for male and female athletes, but I was under the impression that they're just being reimbursed for fees and they're playing for prize money. So where does the equal pay come in?
Equal in terms of prize money and allocation. Yeah, that would be where the equity is, right? I think we look at equity as it's not just a kind of on-field compensation thing. We view equity kind of as a holistic thing for our organization broadly, right? We have, on the one hand, it's equal coverage of our men's, our male and female athletes, right? We'll have the same broadcast windows and coverage for the men's and the women's program. It's the same treatment, right? The same access to high performance, the same travel and logistics, right? I think there's kind of such a, the pay is kind of the moniker that's gotten a lot of attention in media, but
I'll say pay is usually a moniker that gets a lot of attention. Believe me, you're preaching to the choir here. It sounds a little bit confusing just from my perspective here when you say that, because they're literally not getting paid.
No, people are receiving prize money from a participation perspective, but
right.
It's one part.
If you don't win, if you don't win, you're not getting any pay.
Yeah.
All right. It's just semantics. Okay.
Sure.
You're also the first platform to pay women in professional rugby in the United States, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Actually, in North America, perhaps.
Yeah, no, we, it's a really exciting development, I think, in the landscape, trying to make, I think, give the opportunity and the platform for, some really tremendous athletes and women's rugby players to, have a platform to play domestically in front of fans, in front of domestic, TV audiences, and something that, I think we had an opportunity to do something differentiated at the beginning, and we thought it was a no-brainer for us, and with that opportunity.
All right, so let's talk growth, because you guys came out of nowhere, and now you're up and running. Give us some of the numbers. We
had a pretty tremendous season. I mean, we had our Memphis launch in 2021, which is actually going to be. We'll have the year anniversary of that tournament, believe it or not, in 2 weeks. And, it was pretty much up across the board. I mean, from the minutes viewed, from ticketing, sponsorship, butts and seats, really kind of all the metrics that are important for an emerging sports business, it was really, phenomenal to see the growth as we scaled, into multiple cities, but beyond that, to have the kind of same game metrics increase as well was really powerful for us. And so we've kind of got a great platform to build off of, and looking to continue to expand further down the road. We're trying to build an audience for rugby, right? And I think the best way to do that is to get it in front of as many people as possible, because part of our thesis is that if you see what we're putting on, if you see sevens for the first time, you're going to see a really exciting, fun, fast, energized game that you can connect with, right? If you're a fan of American football, you don't need to be in rugby necessarily to connect to what we're understand the nuances of the breakdown to see a try in sevens and really be excited and drawn to it. So in that capacity, trying to get as many people, get as many butts through the turnstiles, butts in seats, eyeballs on the TV, eyeballs on digital and social. I mean, that's kind of where we really want this to stand out.
You got the deal with Fubo. Is that going forward?
We're actively in discussion on a couple different fronts on the broadcast. I will probably have some announcements in the next couple of weeks, and so we can definitely update you on that once we've got something over the finish line. You
have MLR players that could potentially either be playing with your setup or actually get noticed playing for you guys.
Yeah, I think we've had a great and positive relationship with Major League Rugby thus far. It's been really, really positive. I think to give players more opportunities to play professionally, play in different buildings. We've been trying to collaborate and work with them in a very constructive and positive way, because it's rugby, right? I think there's a lot of as a sport, it is an emerging sport, and we want to be rowing in the same direction. And so we're thrilled about the way that we've kind of been able to engage with MLR thus far, and we'll continue to do so going forward.
Are you saying that there might be an MLR PR7s merging sevens competition coming out?
Oh, it might be a little early for that, but
all right, I gotta ask, man. I gotta ask.
Hey, if you want to, there's a lot of opportunities to get creative, right? Things. I think if it's something that fans are interested in, then we could, we'd keep the door open for that for sure.
All right, doors are open. We like to hear that.
Sure.
And when and where can a PR7s fan see you guys next? We are finalizing the schedule for 2023 as we speak. We hopefully will have some announcements to make on that also in the coming weeks, if not, probably by the end of the year. Anticipate a summer 23 season. It's kind of similar type of format, but also with a couple of tweaks. I think there will be some things that some feedback that we've taken in from fans that we definitely think are pretty good ideas as far as format, and so taking those on board and figuring out a exciting new structure I think people will really get excited about and buy into. What did you make of the free beer suggestion from rugbywrapup.com? I think free beer is always a good idea to get people excited about rugby. I think that's where a lot of people get into rugby in the first place, and so we could definitely take that incorporation on board. Well, might need a beer partner for that. We could tweak it, just say cheap beer. Yeah, cheaper beer. We can do that. Beer. All right, final thoughts, sir. We're excited. I mean, I think the landscape for rugby, it's such an exciting time with the World Cups coming. With the LA Olympics coming, there's so many great events, big rugby events that are coming down the horizon. I think, we just want to say thank you to you, Matt, for kind of all you're doing to help build the audience for rugby. I mean, that's, I think, probably our biggest goal is to try and create rugby as entertainment. And so, appreciate you having us on here. Well, it makes my life easier when setups like yours are out there. So kudos and congratulations going forward. Thanks, Matt. Appreciate it. We'll be right back.
Been blind since I was 4, and I've never seen a beer commercial or a beer label. None of that stuff influences me. I drink beer because of the taste, and my beer is Pabst Blue Ribbon. It has the taste and the flavor.
What do you think's on the label?
I think there's a naked woman riding on a unicorn, jumping over fire. Oh, that's good beer.
Okay, we're back with Mr. Tom Kindley, the general manager of the New England Free Jacks. Tom, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I've been watching the show for a long time. I've probably seen most of the episodes over the last couple of years, and yeah, an honour to be on it, Matt.
Well, that really makes me happy. Thank you. And simultaneously, I'm feeling kind of poorly because I'm going to tear you down brick by brick right now, because you are the guy that Free Jacks fans, like Jacks Rangers, are all sad because you let a guy like Beaudein Waaka go, and now you've let Dougie Fife go. What have you to say for yourself, sir?
That's it, really. There's not too much I can say for myself at the moment. We've got to let the rest of our recruitment hopefully make up for that. But yeah, I think Beaudein's paycheck over with Corbeil was a little bit tough for him to turn down, unfortunately.
Yeah, a change of life salary for a guy like that. But hey, those are the spoils of being successful in this league. You're going to have that. But what about Dougie Fife? If it's not Scottish, it's crap.
Yes, Dougie's been awesome. He obviously had that breakout season. He was back of the year for us in 2021. For us, it was always really going to like a 2-year initially. So he came to the end of his contract. He came to the end of his visa, and it's always tough going. You essentially go back to the player pool, obviously with the new group of coaches. Dougie at nearing the back end of his career, our coaches felt like they just wanted to go a slightly different direction in regard to our fullback space. So yeah, tough one. But he's still in our team housing at the moment, still giving back to our community, and still a good friend of everyone. So yeah, he'll be missed.
And you got cap space for that, according to the reports floating around the interwebs. Is that going to be used for Dan Carter?
Us, mate, we're very boring, very modest, and sadly there's never really any big names. So we'll probably continue that sort of line of work.
All right. Well, since fans are going to be disappointed that Dan Carter's not coming, you got any announcements for this week? Yeah,
so we obviously have had a couple of announcements. I dropped one guy that we've been trying to get on board for a long time was Connor Young. So Connor Young is an Australian Canadian eligible tight head prop. So he represented the Canada U20s a long time ago, back in 2015, I believe it was. And since then, he's sort of been a bit of a journeyman. He's played over in the Scottish Super Six, and he's been a bit of a mainstay for Southern Districts on both sides of the scrum, and called into the Queensland Red setup most recently. So he's a really obviously highly touted domestic qualified prop who can play on both sides, and we see him playing a big role for us next year. And then the other one is Jason Potros from Taranaki. So he's a 30-year-old wizened, battle-hardened fly half who's been pulling the strings for them, doing really well for the last few seasons. So yeah, really excited to bring Jason and his family across and to have him step into sort of the fly half void we've got.
And one of the less splashy moves that you guys have made just tore the heart and soul out of Canada, all the fans of Canada, in getting Andrew Quattrin onto your roster. How did you finagle that?
Yeah, well, I think obviously they're close to us from a geographic point of view, and I think that really helps us in that, like, a lot of those guys are sort of homebodies. They don't want to go too far away from home, but Boston's somewhere that they think, I could get there, and that might be all right, not too far away from mum and dad. So I think that helps us a bit. And then obviously Josh Larson, Regan O'Gorman, Foster Dewitt, 3 Canadians that have really enjoyed their time with us in New England. So yeah, we knew there was some interest from a couple of those players for a couple of years, and finally this season we were able to get a couple of them across the line, and obviously announced this week as well via the MLR trade wire, Cole Keith, the loose head prop, is joining us as well. So those two have spent a fair bit of time together in scrum training, and looking forward to having them in Free Jacks jerseys for next season.
You just took out basically 2/3 of that young starting front row for the Arrows / Team Canada and inserted them. It's like the Blue Jays and the Red Sox exchanging players.
Yeah, I know. It's it wasn't meant to exactly happen that way. It didn't really happen for any rhyme or reason. It just so happened that we had vacancies and they were available. So I think those guys just needed a change of scenery. They've been there and they've done a lot of good work and spoke really highly of their time in Toronto. But I think a new home will be good for them for a period of time.
Tom, your team has had some pretty darn good success on the pitch after a less than impressive start, let's say.
Yeah, I think our sort of change of fortune coincided with Woodgie's inception in 2021. As soon as he came on board, we started winning. So,
it's Alex Magleby in a costume. There's no way you're going to convince me otherwise that's not Woodgie.
Well, now that Ollie's moved on too, it could well be Ollie there week in, week out. So, mate, I think our sort of change in fortune has come from some really good coaching. I think some really good appointments in the coaching space. So Ryan Martin did a really good job. And then obviously Scott Matthew, another educator, both high school teachers for a long period of time. Both have really had to work hard to be professional coaches and don't take it for granted. So they work really hard. As we saw with Scotty, he stayed after the season for an extra month and got involved with our U18 space. He was out in the community every day doing work, and a lot of coaches wouldn't be prepared to do that at this level. So they've done really good, and Mike Rogers as well has done a fantastic job. Those two have been sort of a bit of a yin and yang combo. South African and a Kiwi working together. Who would have thought? So
only in rugby.
Yeah. So they've formed a really awesome partnership and a great friendship. They've done a great job. And then I think we've just really tried to be honest with our players, to give them the best experience, treat them as well as we can afford to do as well. Obviously being a part of that, pick them up at the airport, make sure they've got bedding when they arrive into their team housing, making sure that, all those little things.
Just someplace to sleep, right?
I know it sounds ridiculous, but I think those little things go a long way with the players, and then they hear about it. Their teammates hear about it through word of mouth, and then all of a sudden you got a bunch more players who want to be Free Jacks, which is a really good thing.
That's all good stuff. And while we're feeling good, let me ask you this question: what are you going to tell me about Los Angeles and Austin?
Sadly, mate, I don't have too much information except that I think we're going to find out some stuff next week. Yeah.
Let me ask you this hypothetical, though, that maybe as a general manager you can address. If these teams or one of these teams isn't in the league next year, what happens with the players? Yeah,
so, well, obviously with Dallas, we had the dispersal draft, which we were able to, and I think everyone got to benefit from the fruits of Alan Clark's recruitment, which he'd done a really good job. We obviously got Vian Conradi, who's still with us, and a couple others, Tuadraki Samavodre and Josateki Dingay. So, yeah, I think something like that will end up happening again if those players are available. But obviously, we've got a long way down the road now. I know with us at the Free Jacks, we're sort of 90% of the way through our recruitment, so it's going to be very difficult to add any more than one or two at the absolute most. So it is a really tough situation, but I'm sure the league will work hard as they do to rectify it and find good solutions for those players.
Now, I know we're all rugby people and for the most part, nice people in a sense, but this is a business, and the MLR contracts kind of don't make it so that a player that's signed a contract for a year or 2 years has a guarantee. And if some of these star players or better players from LA or Austin come available, even if a team has a full roster, they can kind of just get rid of the contract, right? And bring one of these players in. Is that off base?
Yeah, I mean, each year, I think our contracting model is a bit different to a lot of places, given the fact that we have such a big off season and there's so much that can happen over that off season period. Players need to pass their medical screening upon coming back in. So we just had an instance with Stan Vandenhoven has done his ACL and full knee, and unfortunately, obviously, he won't be able to continue into the second year of his 2-year contract. So yeah, I think for the most part, general managers and coaching and management teams will do their best and their utmost to honour term lengths. But yeah, obviously there are circumstances whereby the club can move on from those players, but I think that's more so off the back of an average season, and not so much these sort of situations. But yeah, we'll see. Hopefully any players that are added can be added on top of already constructed rosters.
Yeah, maybe there's an 11th hour adding players to a roster or adding a little cap room to accommodate these players, because it would be a shame if they had nowhere to go. Final thoughts, sir.
Yeah, I think heading into we're just excited for the next Cold War. Obviously, New York got the better of us in the last two, so we're excited for the next one heading into 2023.
Well, that brings up the question: what do you think of the New York coaching situation?
Yeah, look, I think Rick Salizo, he's actually ended up being a really good mate of mine throughout all the time we spent on the phone with one another, and Steve Lewis does plenty of work, and I definitely respect those guys for all the work they're doing. I think they've got a clear vision as to where they want to go and some things they want to improve, and sometimes it's a bit of a time-consuming process, but it sounds like they'll have a coaching staff appointed in the relatively near future. I imagine there'll be a Kiwi involved in that group as well, which should be heaps of fun for us up in the northeast. But it definitely won't take away from our rivalry, and at the end of the day, we want to beat each other. So that won't change.
A diplomatic, seasoned answer from the new GM right there, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Tom Kindley, thank you, sir, for coming on. And on that note, we are out of time once again. Thank you, Mr. Tom Kindley. Thank you, Owen Scannell. Thank you, John Fitzpatrick, and thank you for tuning in. Please check out our other segments, including the Rugby Odds, the College Rugby Wrap-Up. Hit that subscribe button on YouTube, sign up for our weekly newsletter, and please join our American Red Cross Blood Donor Team.